Who shot what? I arrived in the hospital room at the appointed time, which is to say 11:20 p.m. After discovering the body, I fulfilled my obligation, then called in the doctor. The doctor examined the body before the police arrived. He was quite clear about the time of death, 11:10 p.m. And the one in the room at that time was my partner, not me. Unless you got there earlier.
Those times are rather close, you have to admit. You're talking about an alibi established over a matter of minutes. To use a 10-minute discrepancy as the basis of your alibi
is easy to explain in this situation here, Judge. Take our debut hit single, 13 Years Hard Time for Love, which, by the way, I hope you've all been listening to, is very good. Due to the song, press the play button and it will play for 2 minutes, 15 seconds. Do it 100 times, the result is the same. Their debut single was only 2 minutes and 15 seconds long? What a ripoff. They're usually at least 3 minutes. Magic is a world of utmost precision. Hocus pocus requires admirable focus. And in the time of death determined by the doctor, there is an incontrovertible truth.
Very well. The prosecution warns us that we're dealing with rather precise times, and we can expect the cross-examination to require the same level of precision.
I would hope the defense refrains from its customarily broad, sweeping accusations, lest we blur the focus this case so clearly demands.
Point taken. Baseless remarks will result in a penalty. Carry on, Mr. Wright.
Carry on. Right. Got it. Who shot what? I arrived at the hospital at the appointed time, which is to say 11:20 p.m. 11:20 p.m. Can you prove that's when you arrived? Alas, such a feat may be beyond even the great Valant, for there was no one in that room but Magnifi, and he was departed after a fashion. I have here defendant Zach Kramer's sworn deposition. I snuck into his room that night at the appointed time. It was 10 minutes before I left the room, and the victim was still alive.
The time indicated by this letter to Zach was 11:05 p.m.
Exactly. Which means the witness could not have entered the room before 11:15, because his partner was still in the middle of his crime.
I see someone did their arithmetic homework.
You see, the defendant himself has corroborated the witness's testimony. Does that all make sense? Let's look at the court record and find out. That doesn't matter for this. Because they're going to want evidence. So, this is really important, but I also suspect this is the forged evidence. But it's got to show up at some time. Let's say there's a contradiction and just see what happens. The only problem I see here is the glaring contradiction in that testimony? No.
Was that a question?
I guess it was. You have been warned, Herr Wright. Baseless remarks will be penalized.
Well put, Prosecutor Gavin. Oh, and Mr. Wright, here's my answer to your question.
Alright. So that's true. We don't have any evidence for any of that, clearly. I don't see any problem with that testimony.
If you say so. Let's continue, shall we?
Sometimes the most magical thing of all is the truth. After discovering the body, I fulfilled my obligation, then called in the doctor. You walk in on a murder, and the first thing you do is shoot the clown? The disciple does what the disciple must. My mentor's request without reason had caused for me a surfeit of sorrow. For what would I, Volant, be now without him? May the soul of Magnifi the Great find greater peace above. Thus this I muttered to myself as I pulled that lonely trigger. In any case, I believe this is nothing more than what we have already learned. I am still waiting for one of those right moments, Herr Attorney.
May I remind you that baseless remarks will earn penalties. Proceed with that in mind.
Yes, Your Honor. What a pain this is turning out to be. The doctor examined the body before the police arrived. Did the doctor say anything concerning the cause of death? Why, yes! I believe he screamed, "My God, he's been shot in the head!" He said it just like that.
It doesn't take a doctor to notice that. I believe I would have said much the same thing. My God, he's been shot in the head.
And I would have pinned the requiem that rose in my soul at that horrid sight. Whatever happened to good old-fashioned investigation? In any case, I believe this is nothing more than what we have already learned. I'm still waiting for one of those right moments, Herr Attorney.
May I remind you?
Yeah. Yes, Your Honor. So, okay, we have mainly baseless remarks that you know of. He was quite clear about the time of death, 11:10 p.m. I don't think I'm stepping out on a limb to say I have some doubts about this. How could the doctor be so precise with the time?
We do usually only get an estimated time of death, true. I'm not sure I've heard of a verified time of death.
Magic revels in making the complex appear simple, but reality is the opposite. What appears complex in this case is a simple matter of subtraction.
I see, another person has done their arithmetic homework.
The point here is the IV the victim was taking. It's quite visible in the photograph of the scene. Oh. Recall what we heard earlier about the victim, Magnifi Grammary's schedule. Every night at 11 o'clock, Magnifi took an IV trip for 30 minutes.
I can see the IV bag right there, yes.
Now look a little closer. Follow the tube down from the bag to the end.
Ah, the needle's been removed.
Doubtlessly it fell out when he was shot.
That would seem to be the case.
When the needle comes out, the IV no longer drips. Ah, you could just measure the remaining IV liquid. Precisely. The IV liquid functions for our purposes as an hourglass of sorts. This is how the doctor determines the time of death. From the amount remaining in the bag, it was determined that the IV had stopped 10 minutes after administration began. Interesting. But what if it got taken out for another reason? And so it was when I, Volant, entered that room. 10 minutes had passed since that horrible crime was committed. And this is proof?
Well, Mr. Wright.
Did that seem important? Very important. Add it to the testimony. Well, seeing how it's the biggest clue we have to the time of death, I'd say it's very important.
Agreed. It would be hard to imagine a more precise way to determine the time. Behold the power of arithmetic. Very well. The witness will add this detail to his testimony.
Sometimes the most magical thing of all is the truth. The water of life springs not eternal. The remaining IV liquid proves my innocence. I think there's something to present here, but I don't know what yet. We're gonna keep pressing things until the answer reveals itself. Did you notice the IV yourself by any chance? When first I entered that room, the stench of gunpowder assailed me. Next, the mark of death upon my mentor's forehead. And then his left arm did I spy, a rose drooping and wilted, its thorn the discarded ivy needle. Knocked from the vein by the force of the shot, luckily for you. If that ivy had not been there, why, you might be a suspect. Indubitably so. I might say it's thanks to my lucky color. Your lucky color? Indeed, even today I wear it proudly upon my suspect self. For it always, without fail, brings me luck. Why, when Zack and Volant won their first Magician's Grand Prix, yes, the very one held by the Association of International Magicians, I was adorned in his attire then too, and our trophy, a bust. Ah, what a day that was! Ugh, this is one trip down memory lane no one needs. My lucky color, yes indeed, and that IV too. I say I think 'twas hewed specially for me. Volant, excuse me?
That does seem to be the case indeed. Well, Mr. Wright, any thoughts on this testimony?
Volant sure looks happy with himself. Okay, how about this lucky color testimony? Is it yellow? It looks green, but that might just be the yellow liquid in the blue packaging. Is Ivy liquid yellow? It's not supposed to be. It's usually clear, isn't it? Did he swap out the Ivy for a pee bag? Is that pee? Did he stick pee on his thing? There is a contradiction. I don't know if I can prove it with evidence. It certainly sounds like your lucky colors brought you plenty of luck. But not this time. Mr. Volant, your lucky colors betrayed you. I'm afraid you've lost me. Your Honor, the witness's testimony just now clearly contradicts the evidence.
What? Please recall my warning at the beginning of this cross-examination. Mr. Wright, baseless accusations will be duly penalized. I do hope this latest accusation is well-based.
Don't worry, I've got all your bases right here. They all belong to me. To us.
Very well, let's hear the defense's claim. Where is your evidence that contradicts what Mr. Volant has told us?
I think it's just the photograph. Oh, I have your report. 30 minutes required to administer full IV from the amount remaining, and IV stopped 10 minutes after administration began. Oh, that doesn't tell us anything important. Let's try presenting the crime photo and just see what happens. The crime scene tells all, Your Honor.
The photo of the crime scene?
All this talk of color has me yearning for black and white, clear-cut simplicity. Tell us, Herr Wright, just where is the contradiction in this photo? My pleasure. And I assure you, it's quite simple. But I can't promise anything in black and white.
Let's see what Mr. Wright has to say. What in this photo contradicts the witness's testimony?
All right. My initial thought is that it has to be the bag itself is the wrong color. Or it shouldn't be that color. It'd be nice if there was another, like, visible bag somewhere. And this actually has me a little suspicious. But yes, IV stands for intravenous, which goes into the, literally into the bloods, into veins, intravenous. Let's try the bag. Volant Gramarye, let's get one thing straight about your lucky color. It's yellow, yes? It kind of takes the mystery out of it, but yes.
Something wrong with yellow, Mr. Wright?
Yes, there is. Decisively wrong, in fact. Take another look at the photo of the crime scene.
Well, what's this?
Confusion, doubt. Tell us, what do your elderly eyes spy?
Even my elderly eyes can see a problem here, Mr. Blunt. Look at that IV bag.
What is this? What foul magic? It would be hard to call the IV liquid yellow, and I'm afraid no magic was involved in the taking of this photograph. No! Rabbits everywhere! Okay, we did it so far, seemingly.
Order! What does this mean?
Objection! This is some kind of mistake.
Yes, Prosecutor Gavin. Your witness's mistake.
The greener they are, the harder they fall. I suppose there's no substitute for experience. Valant Grammary, as you reminded us several times, your lucky color is yellow, but the IV is clearly not.
Well,
this contradiction can mean only one thing.
Objection!
And to sink. You almost had me. Huh? I see your true colors now, Ace Attorney. Phoenix Wright, if that is the name of a game you've ever been in.
Something you'd like to tell us, Prosecutor Gavin? As far as this court can tell, the witness's testimony does contradict the evidence.
Yes, a contradiction. One that I shall be pleased to hand right back to Mr. Wright. How do you mean? How? Because the witness has made no mistakes. I agree, at a glance, the IV liquid does appear a sort of greenish yellow. But I assure you, the liquid itself is quite yellow.
Yellow liquid? How can you say that? As far as I can tell from this photo, it's green.
Yes, but what color is the IV bag itself? The bag? You mean the plastic bag on the hook?
It looks like I want to say light blue.
Precisely. Figured it out yet? Put a yellow liquid in a blue bag and you get green. This, incidentally, is the liquid's true color.
I see. Your explanation does have the ring of truth to it.
I'd really hoped that it was just a pea bag and it shouldn't have been yellow. As I thought, there's no substitute for experience, Prosecutor Gavin.
What?
You may tell a good tale, but you've just proven something rather grave. For you, that is.
Grave?
The liquid in the IV is yellow, yes. But how did this witness know that? It's quite unnatural when you think about it. You did think about it, didn't you? Your Honor, the defense requests an explanation from the witness. At the scene of the crime, the IV liquid appears to be green. So let me ask, how did the witness know the IV liquid was actually yellow?
Order! Mrs. Wright, you will explain this at once. The witness clearly knew the color of the IV liquid, so I'm sure it means something, but what?
I can think of only one possibility, Your Honor. The witness, Valant Grammary, has testified that the IV liquid was yellow because he'd seen it before. From the facts before us, the answer is clear. The witness knew that the IV liquid was yellow. Why? Because he'd seen it before, but not inside the blue bag we see in the photo. He saw the liquid by itself in a clear, colorless bag.
I suppose he would have had to, but I'm still not clear as to what all this means.
Ask yourself, why would he know if he didn't work at a hospital? That's where you'll find your meaning, Your Honor.
Objection!
I'm afraid I find nothing, so what if he knew the IV liquid's color? Leaves getting excited over absolutely nothing to our teeny bopper fans, yeah? Did you just admit that you're absolutely nothing?
Objection!
Boom, boom, boom! The IV liquid is the only evidence proving the time of death. A 30-minute hourglass with 20 minutes worth of sand remaining. Your claim, Prosecutor Gavin.
I remember it well.
However, There's a critical difference between an hourglass and an IV bag.
Wait. Oh, I know. An hourglass uses sand, but an IV bag uses liquid. I'm right? Yes, right? Yes.
As much as it pains me to say this, Your Honor, no. Unlike the sands through an hourglass, IV liquid enters the patient's body. At which point, like magic, it disappears. However, what if the amount of IV liquid had increased? You couldn't tell, could you? After all, there's no way of knowing how much went in. Let me get this straight, Herr White. You're saying the witness watered down the victim's IV bag? Not with water, but with IV liquid. That's how you knew the IV liquid was yellow. Now wait! I said wait! How might an amateur such as myself essay to perform such a task? I'm an amateur too, but I can pour water into a cup. I'm afraid there's quite a big difference between a cup and an IV bag. Quite. Can you prove our witness is capable of such a feat?
Here's a point, amateurs. I, at least, would have some difficulty pouring IV liquid into that bag.
You don't need to be an expert to see the look on the witness's face. He added liquid to that IV to throw off the time of death. I tire of these fairy tales lacking evidence.
Well, Mr. Wright, any solid evidence to bring us back down to earth?
Balangrammery, I'm afraid your magic won't serve you well in a life of crime. Might I ask what you're strongly suggesting? Magic relies on props, and props become evidence. Our witness was certainly able to increase the amount of IV liquid in the bag. All he had to do was work a little magic. And the prop was, I'd say it was the small syringe. He used the gun. No, syringe time.
The victim's syringe.
It's the perfect prop for the magically increasing IV trick. And easy enough for an amateur to use.
What kind of evidence is that?
The syringe was clean, not a trace of liquid in it. And don't you find that odd, Prosecutor Gavin? What? The victim had the syringe to administer his insulin shots. There should have been traces of insulin left inside. Well, Balangrammery, as you pointed out yourself, the IV liquid makes the perfect clock. One that you could manipulate at will.
I do believe, well, with this being his first, that the burden of this trial has been a bit too much to bear for Prosecutor Gavin.
What? Excuse me? No.
I'm afraid that while there is doubt as to the amount of IV liquid in that bag, the time of death cannot be proven. And that brings our trial to a close for today.
Well, maybe I could squeeze an extra day out of this. I can do a little more much-needed investigation work.
I see there are no objections. Court is adjourned.
Truly, there's no substitute for experience. Nothing blinds one to the truth so effectively. Huh? Excuse me. A word to the wise. Underestimate the young and they'll sweep your feet out from under you. In a way you never ever expected. You see, I know exactly what you're thinking. What's he talking about? You say the witness used a syringe to manipulate the level of the IV liquid. But there is no proof. There's no proof he didn't do it either. Yes, quite true. Huh? He's admitting it? Nor was this witness quite as decisive as I'd hoped. This, I admit, after all, why linger in the past when the future holds so much?
You have something in mind, Prosecutor Gavin?
Proof, Herr Judge. I have another way to prove my case. This evidence, no less.
What's this?
This is the victim, Magnifi Gramarie's diary. Oh, diary. Well, that's very interesting. That's very interesting for unrelated reasons. Diary. After going into the hospital, Magnifi began writing his memoir, it seems. The story of his birth, his startling debut, and of meeting his disciples. It seems he intended for the last chapter to end, quite appropriately, with his death. Wait, that book doesn't say what the reason was, does it? The reason why his disciples couldn't refuse his last request? Sadly, it does not. What's important here is on the last page. Apparently, the victim wrote in his journal that night, even after the IV had begun at 11 p.m. Let's read it, shall we? Let's read it together. The torn page. Tonight's, let's see.
This is a bit of it written just before his death.
Tonight's IV is in, maybe the last. I leave the rest to them. The first should come soon. This journal may end here, or it may go on, but not long. It depends on his hand.
Interesting. All that's left to mine is to lay down and die.
The court accepted into evidence.
Magnifi's diary added to the court record. This is where I find that page to put in, and then they find yet another page, and then you blow the dust off, and it really says, to serve man, a cookbook, or whatever, I don't know. Read the very last part with particular care. This journal may end here, or it may go on, but not long. That depends on his hand. There's clearly a torn page here. Of course, by his, he refers to our defendant, Zach Gramarye.
That would make sense, yes. He was the first scheduled visitor, after all.
But look at what he said before that. This journal may end here, or it may go on. It may go on. Magnifi Gramarye intended to write again. That is, if Zach Gramarye didn't pull the trigger. Yeah, okay. That page seems really authentic. I see the defense understands the meaning of this. The victim's diary does not go on. It ends, unlike a certain song about my heart going on. Because Magnifi's life was brought to an end by the defendant, Zach Gramarye.
Order! Prosecutor Gavin! Are you certain that Magnifi Gramarye wrote this?
There is no mistaking his handwriting.
Well, this does seem to be significant. According to this, Magnifi did intend to continue his diary. Yet, if his diary ended here, which plainly it did...
Then the one who pulled the trigger was the first visitor, Zach Gramarye. Well, how do you like me now, Herr Wright? Still too green for your tastes, He's right about the diary being pretty clear. Still, I find it hard to believe that he'd overlook such an obvious problem with his precious evidence.
Well, Mr. Wright, the witness's testimony we heard was lacking. But put together with his evidence, it seems quite sufficient for a case.
If the diary is accepted like this, the trial's over. Maybe it's time for me to show them something. Yes! We will have to show evidence. I'm left with no choice but to show my own evidence.
What? You have some evidence that overturns this diary?
I like everybody suggesting the pencil trick, but we can't do the pencil trick yet because we don't have a forensics person on our side. I bet that comes into play a little later. It's not too late to resync this and avoid more embarrassment.
Very well. Please show us your evidence, Mr. Wright.
Incidentally, don't even think of showing us this diary I've just shown the court. Now that we've come this far, I hope you have something a little more decisive. Show us evidence that proves the victim continued writing his diary. Alright, I'd be happy to. The decisive evidence proving that the diary didn't end with this page is another page.
Take that!
First, take a close look at this diary. Note that a page has clearly been ripped out.
What's this? I hadn't noticed that at all.
That's why we're still here talking about this. I'm the one who notices things. I'm the noticer. Me. Phoenix Noticer, right. That's my middle name. As it just so happens, I have here what I believe to be the missing page.
Alaka, I don't believe it!
Looking at this page, it's hard to imagine that the first visitor that night shot Magnifi Grammary. So he definitely was the one who tore that out, and he shouldn't have the page. That's the defense's position.
Wait, let me see that. What in the Sam Hill? Why, this is a continuation of the victim's diary.
But how? What?
Note the torn edge of the page. It's a perfect match with the torn remains of the last page in Magnifi's diary.
Quite remarkable.
Would you care to explain what all this means, Herr Attorney? The diary continued after his first visitor came, which means that the victim was still alive after Zach Grammary left, leaving no one to take his life but the second visitor. Valiant Grammary.
No!
The handwriting, too, matches that on the other pages. This is without a doubt the genuine article. Order!
But wait, that's impossible! That old man couldn't have written that!
Objection!
Finally. You just couldn't resist, could you, Herr Wright? Resist what? Presenting solid evidence? Herr Judge.
Yes, Prosecutor Gavin?
Might I request we put the current cross-examination on hold? The prosecution would like to call a new witness.
But Prosecutor Gavin, this evidence overturns the current witnesses.
I ask only to put it on hold. Please, my new witness has a very, very important piece of testimony to give. 5 minutes, no more. I promise, Your Honor.
Well, if you put it that way, Mr. Wright, what's your take on this?
Well, Your Honor, judging from his enthusiasm, we'll have to hear this new testimony sooner or later anyway. So it might as well be sooner.
Then, though this is highly irregular, we will put the current cross-examination on hold. The witness may step down. Now, Prosecutor Gavin, please bring the surprise witness to the courtroom.
I had a bad feeling just then. That ripped out page was too obvious. He must have known. And I should have known it was a bad sign all around. Is this?
Holding trial with no audience is a first, even for me, Prosecutor Gavin.
I beg the court's understanding. But I had to make a judiciary deal with the witness to secure his testimony. A judiciary deal? The details of his testimony may have some legal ramifications, shall we say. I thought it best to contain the information to this room.
Very well. And you are the witness, I gather?
Yes, sir.
State your name and occupation for the record.
My name's Drew Misham. I'm a painter.
A painter? And you are somehow related to this case?
No, well, not per se.
I have one simple question for this witness. Mr. Misham, was it? Do you know what this is?
Yeah, I know it well.
How is that possible? Have you seen this diary page somewhere before?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I made it.
You... what? You made it?
Yeah, yes, you might call it one of my works.
The regional prosecutor's office received a tip-off yesterday. Illegal evidence has been prepared for the trial of Zach Grammary.
illegal evidence?
I initiated an investigation and found this witness. A painter to the world at large. Drew Measham has another side, you might say. He is skilled in making perfect reproductions of certain things. Forgeries, in other words. Forgeries? I've been set up!
Well, so we understand that this page here is
a fake, prepared by a certain defense attorney.
Objection!
Hold it! I didn't prepare this evidence.
Objection!
The attorney speaks something about this page, I presume, but what is he saying? It makes no sense. After all, it was you who presented this evidence to us, Phoenix Wright.
Witness, Mr. Measham, was it? Who requested this forgery? Who was your client?
I don't know. What? Most of my clients prefer to remain anonymous, even to me. I make the items they want and receive my payment. That's the extent of my contact with them.
Objection!
But there's no proof this is a fake. It's a fake. To avoid just this sort of problem, I always put a special mark on my works. I can say, without a doubt, this is mine.
Mr. Wright, you have just presented illegal evidence to this court. My court.
It was careless of me. That's all I can say.
Oh, old boy. Here.
What's this?
I don't know. I just got it over there in the hall. They told me to give it to the old boy in the blue suit with the spiky hair. They said it was really important.
It was all a trap. A fatal trap. Those magicians!
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Do you have an explanation for yourself?
If I did, would the court hear it?
Probably not. Forging evidence is a serious crime, and presenting it in court, a serious mistake. A fatal mistake for an attorney, because now we're going to kill you. Wait, disbar you.
Fatal too, perhaps, for your client, I fear. What? Tell me, what kind of defendant relies on forged evidence? The answer is quite clear. A guilty one.
Objection!
Your Honor, wait! I understand that presenting forged evidence in court is a serious crime, but you cannot hold my client responsible for actions I undertook as an individual.
I am sorry, Mr. Wright.
Your Honor, another close call, I dare say. If the prosecutor's office hadn't received that hot tip, everything would have gone the way you wanted it to, yeah? I even gave you a chance. Too bad you decided not to think before embarrassing yourself.
I see no need for further discussion on this matter. Special witness dismissed.
Mr. Attorney?
Yes?
Could I ask your name?
Huh? Phoenix Wright.
Mr. Wright, I have seen and studied many people, but none like you. I'll remember you, Mr. Wright.
Though I deeply regret having to declare a verdict in this way, this trial is over. You have the right to find a new attorney and make an appeal. However, this court must...
Your Honor?
Yes, Mr. Zack?
There is one thing I wish to make clear. Today, in this courtroom, you cannot declare me guilty. It is impossible.
I'm afraid the defendant is quite mistaken. I most certainly have the authority to declare a verdict on you.
Except, tell me, how do you plan on announcing your verdict when your defendant does not exist?
Doesn't exist? What are you talking about?
I am talking about this! Mr. Enigmar! The defendant escaped! Find him quick!
Bailiff, close all exits from the building. On the double, he must not be allowed to escape.
That day, in that courtroom, a miracle occurred. The defendant, Shady Enigmar, aka Zach Gramarye, did not just escape from court. He literally, unbelievably, vanished. Right before the bailiff's eyes. No one ever saw him again. Not since that day. This is the Gramarye miracle. No verdict was declared. After all, the defendant didn't exist. That's how it happened. The trial of magician Zach Gramarye vanished, along with him, for all eternity. The mysteries that remained behind were all solved, however, but not until 7 years later. To be continued. Well, that's it for the dark history of what happened 7 years ago. We're gonna need more answers, though. Tune in Thursday. We're gonna find out some more. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Bye for now.